So Earthblade's been canceled, which is really big news in the indie space, and I'm here to talk about it. Hey there, I'm CGDannyB, and I really like indie games. I like sharing them with you guys. Now, this is typically something we would cover on our podcast, but a little behind the scenes. We record on Tuesdays and drop the podcast on Thursdays. So when we get news on Wednesdays, it really throws us off. Now, typically it's something that's like, oh, we could talk about this next week because the game hit a sales milestone or whatever. But this is like a big deal in the indie space. So I wanted to take the time to talk about this. So if you're watching the podcast, like,
why are they talking about Earthblade?
It happened on another video, or well, I guess you're not watching that, you're watching. Either way, hey, I'm still talking about it. Now, before we dive into this, in case you are not familiar with what Earthblade is, let me show you a little bit here. So at the 2022 Game Awards, Jeff Keighley announced that the team behind Celeste, Extremely OK Games, was announcing their next game, Earthblade. This was a gorgeous, stunning metroidvania, and if you're familiar with Celeste, welcome to indies. But Celeste was this gorgeous 2D platformer that was really challenging, but the story was about overcoming your mountains both physically and emotionally. And they had this really impactful story, great music, awesome visuals. So at the Game Awards, when we saw like from the creators of Celeste, that was just a huge thing for gamers. Like people who had played Celeste or even heard about Celeste like knew this was a big deal. So we have not really heard much about Earthblade since 2022, which this felt like it was something that happened so long ago. Like as far as we feel waiting for Silksong every year of like, will it finally come out? This was just a handful now, just about, still just a little over 2 years ago. But yeah, this game is no longer coming out, which sucks. Now, before we get into the details of what the team had posted talking about the game and why it was canceled, again, Celeste was their big ticket title. This was one of the games that everybody heard about, everybody was playing, but they also made another game, which me and my friends played a butt ton in college. It's called Towerfall Ascension. This is a up to, I think, 4-player, like, PvP almost Smash clone kind of deal, except the whole thing is everybody has bow and arrows and you're dashing around the map, you're shooting your arrows and you want to take out your like opponents, but there's also bramble arrows that'll like spread spikes across the stage, so if people step on it they die. It's just this fast, quick, insane party game that I feel like not enough people have played, and you should play it. Go pick up Towerfall Ascension. But this isn't a sales pitch video. Let's get into what we're here to talk about. Now, I found out about this afternoon when I saw Wario64 tweeted out like, hey, Earthblade's canceled, which just seeing that as a notification on my phone was mind melting. I hated seeing that. But they posted an article here on the Extremely OK Games website, and I'm going to break it down here and read it for you and give you some of my thoughts along the way. So it starts out, hey everybody, I got some sad news today to ring in 2025. Late last month, Noel and I made the difficult decision to cancel Earthblade. Yes, we are opening this year with a huge, heartbreaking, and yet relieving failure. I want to outline in this post what led to this decision and what it means for the future of EXOK, which is Extremely OK Games, just in case you're missing that. Before I get into it, however, I want to acknowledge that this news will likely come as a shock to fans who have been eagerly anticipating the game. I want to stop there real quick. I am not one that's followed this website or any of the newsletters. For me, even as much as I am in the indie space, I saw the announcement at the Game Awards, and that's pretty much all I do about Earthblade. If there's any other news out there, I haven't been following it. If it wasn't at like some kind of direct or opening night live type event, like I was unaware, which probably is how most people are taking in this news. But anyway, let's continue. So we made this decision in December and felt it best to wait until now to announce it. For us on the inside, we've had some time to process, grieve, and work towards accepting this, although that process is non-linear and still ongoing. For those only reading this now who might be emotionally invested in this project, we're sorry to disappoint you. This thing's really dope here. So this is an image of the map that we would have been playing on in Earthblade, which feels like such a dagger because as I sit here looking at this, I'm like, fuck, this is so cool, right? Like, let me zoom in a little bit more here. We see like the Nova engine, Century Cluster, Autumn Asteroids, like, and this is such a coffee stain, napkin scribble, and that's not to bring down the, like, this is really cool. This is so awesome. And the caption says, the earliest piece of concept art for Earthblade by Amora. I drew a simple map and then Amora redid it with much more detail and style. As much as Earthblade changed throughout the development, the vibe for this image remained one of the game's anchors. And that, like I said, it's such a dagger because this looks so awesome. It looks like such a, I say a non-linear Metroidvania as if that's not a common thing. Most Metroidvanias are not linear, but like, I'm seeing the openness of this world, or how most Metroidvanias feel like, here's your big old cube with whatever hallways are going whatever way, but like the natural feeling of this world still coupled with like some infrastructure and like what looks like an observatory up there where it says the council. I could go on for days about this map, but I don't want to hype myself up something that's not going to happen now. But so the next headline is what happened. So earlier this year, a fracture began forming in the team. Specifically, this was between us, Noel and I, and Pedro, a founding member of EXOK, longtime friend and collaborator and art director for Earthblade and pixel UI artist on Celeste and Towerfall Ascension. The conflict centered around a disagreement about the IP rights of Celeste. They don't go into a lot of detail here. I'm hoping we hear something soon about what exactly that is, but at the end of the day, I guess truly doesn't matter, but it's nice to be informed. So essentially they're just like, who owns Celeste? What's going on with Celeste? Who's got the rights to it? What this evolves into as far as royalties and the future of the franchise. So we might not be getting a Celeste 2 at this point, depending on how this all rolls out. But yeah, it seems like ownership was a big problem with the team. Which we won't be detailing publicly. This was obviously a very difficult and heartbreaking process. We eventually reached a resolution, but both parties also agreed in the end that we should go our separate ways. Pedro is now working on his game Neverway, which you should check out. We've played it and it's very promising. I wanted to click on this. I pulled it up really quick earlier. I haven't really taken a look at it. Yeah, Pedro's working on this game. Neverway is an upcoming game being developed by Issa at Cold Blood Inc. Subscribe to our newsletter if you want to learn more. We are using Murder and ECS engine for this project. I don't get a big vision of what the game is narratively, but it looks like a modern pixel art but retro styled like RPG type game. Just looking at this gives big Game Boy vibes. Looking at the simple palettes, I really dig the vibe. We're on the Saint 11 website. If you go to the article, you can click and see the same thing. I might subscribe to the newsletter just to stay up to date. But yeah, now Neverway here, definitely on the radar. But step back to the article here. Losing Pedro wasn't the only factor in canceling the game, but it did prompt us to take a serious look at whether fighting through to finish Earthblade was the right path forward. The project had a lot going for it, but frustratingly, it was also not as far along as one would expect after such a protracted development process. This was surprising to me, right? Because again, if you aren't in the indie scene or like maybe you're not super deep into it, indie games take a long time. Like, sure, there's smaller ones that can be cranked out in a matter of months or days or maybe just a year or so. But like a lot of indie hits, like when a studio has their first hit, you don't really get to feel that length of time as the player for how long that game took, right? Like one day this game just showed up and you played it, right? But like something like this, like we all played Celeste, now we're waiting for their next game. And Celeste was, hold on, double check, 2018? Yeah, January 2018. So early 2018, which now seeing that we haven't had a game, so that's 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, going into 25 in just a few days. It's been 7 years since we got Celeste, which is like, it's a long time to wait in between games. But knowing that we've heard about this game just over 2 years ago and they're like, it really wasn't that far along, sounds like there are a lot more problems behind the scenes than we knew as the viewer, as the player, which is disheartening. It sucks because indies are such, they're these passion projects, these uplifting things. And even after seeing like the indie game movie or whatever the documentary is titled, if you haven't seen it, it's really great. But it talks about some of like the struggles of developing games and ownership, which Fez went through what sounds like a very similar thing with their copywriting and who owns what and partnerships and etc. Hopefully this is nowhere near as much of a headache like they're having as much as Fez did. But yeah, good documentary, recommend it. I'm rambling though. I do believe that if we soldiered on despite it all, that Earthblade could still be a great game, which that sucks. But I don't want them to work on something they're not excited to work on, especially if there's problems with it. But oh man, I want to play Earthblade. But would it be worth the pain? Noel and I also began to reflect on how the game has felt for us to work on day to day and realized that it has been a struggle for a long time. Sure, working on one project for so long is bound to become a slog, but this feels like a deeper problem. Celeste's success applied pressure on us to deliver something bigger and better with Earthblade, and that pressure is a large part of why working on it has become so exhausting. Pedro isn't to blame for this. In fact, the split with him has given us the clarity to see that we have lost our way and the opportunity to admit defeat. I feel many ways about it, but one big feeling is undoubtedly relief. Because this is the internet, I want to be unequivocal here that the decision and responsibility for canceling Earthblade rests entirely with me and Noel. If you were excited about Earthblade and angry about its canceling, Pedro and the Neverway team aren't the enemy, and anyone who treats them as such isn't welcome in any EXOK community. I feel like this should go without being said, but yeah, you shouldn't treat people like shit. Well, let me clarify. If people have done super shitty things, like we're talking big, racist, homophobic, any of those, yeah, we could be shitty to those people. But this seems like it's human beings finding a problem in the project they're working on and not having that passion for it anymore, or whatever other flaws are coming up. That's not inherently like you're a bad person. So yes, don't fuck with Pedro and the Neverway team. I think they're making something cool over here. So let's all accept this game's not happening, but it's not necessarily anybody's fault that we need to be banging at virtual doorways to be, frying people over the coals or whatever. But as they wrap up the article, they do go into a what's next column. While this is shaken out, other members of the team have moved on as well. Noel and I now want to take all of the many lessons that we've learned from Earthblade, wipe the slate clean, and refocus ourselves back to smaller scale projects. We're prototyping again and exploring at our own pace and trying to rediscover game development in a manner closer to how we approached it at Celeste or Towerfall's inception. We still, of course, hope to collaborate with Amora, Kyle, Chevy, Lena, and Power Up Audio again in the future. Scaling the core team up post-Celeste has ultimately been a failure, and that's okay. We gave it all we've got, and life goes on. We are happy to return to our roots and reclaim some joy in our creative process and see where that takes us. And then this was posted January 22nd. As I'm recording this, it is already January 23rd, but I'm still in the same wake cycle, so it's the same day to me. Man, it's a lot to unpack. This sucks, right? I think one of the biggest issues that we have, right, is seeing something that people were so excited for, but also that was so quiet in terms of like how loud fans were. Like, I know I've been excited for Earthblade, but honestly, you could scrub through my footage, my old videos, and see how often I've brought it up just because the game has been so quiet, right? And I think that also comes with the fan base being quiet. I think there are a lot of people who are so excited for it, while at the same time, like, it's impossible to hide the hype behind Silksong, right? Like, that game got announced. We continue to talk about it till 2025 here, since it was announced in 2017, and seeing the hype behind it, and even the meme at this point of like, are we going to see Shovel Knight are we going to see Silksong at this new announcement? Are we going to see Silksong release date this year? Is 2025 finally the year? Listen, we're doing our book club on Hollow Knight next week. This better be the year for Silksong, I'll tell you that. But yeah, it's a lot to unpack, right? It's so strange to feel this loss for something, because we see games get canceled all the time, and it's never fun. It's never great to see a game get canceled, regardless of what you think of the team or whatever. Like, there are people behind that working on a project, whether it's a passion project, whether it's a big AAA, whatever, every year. It sucks to see something get canceled. People put their time and effort into creating a piece of art that, at the way this looks, is getting thrown away. Like, we won't ever see what came of Earthblade, and that sucks a lot to me. Although, looking on the bright side, seeing that Noel and Maddie are moving on to do another project of their own, something that's on a smaller scale, I think is really exciting for me. Like I said, with whatever copyright things are going on with Celeste, we don't really know what's going to happen with that until we'd eventually maybe see a Celeste 2 logo one day at some kind of gaming event. I think it's safer to assume a Celeste 2 is not in the cards, at least until they prove us wrong. Knowing how much I love Towerfall Ascension, knowing how much I love Celeste, and knowing that they want to go back to something in that realm, in that scale, is really exciting to me. And knowing that it's going to be smaller, I don't think we're going to have a 7 to 8 year wait, but also, they're indie games. It might be that long. Rip to Earthblade. Sucks that we won't get to see that one, but I am wishing every single developer who was a part of this team the best luck moving forward on whatever they're working on next. Can't wait to see what comes from the Neverway team. Can't wait to see what comes from Extremely OK Games. I'm sure they're both going to make awesome next projects, and we should all go play them immediately. But guys, thank you so much for watching. I'm going to edit this and then go to bed because it's almost 1 in the morning for me, but I just couldn't stop thinking about this news today, and I had to post it. If you guys do like indie gaming news, we do post a podcast every Thursday. It's called Playlog Podcast. within 12 hours of this video going up, we will have a brand new video where we do a little bit of indie news, but we do a fun trivia thing where Topher and I are explaining games to each other like really poorly to see if we can guess. And I think it's a great episode. I think you should check it out. And also we're going to be doing more reviews. We're going to be doing monthly game breakdowns of what games are coming out, etc., etc. So if you want to stay up to date on all the fun indie gaming stuff, be sure to subscribe, stick around for some more amazing content, and like the video. That means more people can find it. More indie game fans will be out there being like, oh, this Danny guy is really cool, and you get more indie gaming friends. But yeah, be sure to let me know what you guys think about Earthblade being canceled, or were you a big fan of Celeste? If you've never played these games before, are you going to now? Just fill the comments. Engagement's king. But I need to stop dancing around. I need to get this edited and go to bed. So guys, thank you so much for watching, and I will talk to you in the next one.